Yay, okay. I didn't know if anybody was going to be able to watch, so I'm glad some people are joining. Okay. I guess I can turn my camera around now. I didn't want to look at the screen all awkward, so I propped my phone up. I've been fiddling with my phone for like 10 minutes, finding excuses not to start. Yes, I'm going to save it. Will it be available later? I'm going to save it. I'm going to try to figure out how to save it, and then I'll put it on my blog so that people can watch it later. So if you have to leave or whatever, that's okay. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I didn't have as much time to prepare this weekend as I hoped, but we're just going to kind of talk about what we read this week. And you guys, please chime in, because I'm an awkward conversationalist, especially in a room of nobody. I'm just in here by myself. Is the connection okay for everybody? Can you all hear me and see me? Okay. All right, so the first 20 pages of the book were so good. I highlighted every other line. And I guess we'll just start at the beginning. So let's see. Charlotte starts the book. She wants to touch specifically on a mother's duty to... Okay, good. Yay! I'm glad you can all hear me. So she starts the book and wants to touch on mother's duties to their little one, especially when you are going to home educate. And she starts off saying that our children aren't our personal property, that they will one day go out into the world and be people that contribute to our society. So our job is really important, is what she's getting at, really. So do you guys struggle with that ever, feeling how important your job is? That, do you consider your role as a home educator to be a profession? Because I know I struggled with it a lot at the beginning. I never thought I would be a stay-at-home mom. I definitely never thought I would homeschool. So whenever, the cards kind of laid down in the way that they did in my life, I struggled with it a lot at first and felt like I wasn't, I didn't measure up to other people my age who were doing different things and what I felt like were more important things. But I've come to accept that this is really one of the most important jobs in the world, if not the most important. I'm starting to. Yes, it is a full-time job. And homeschooling does feel like two jobs. It feels like a million jobs because you have to do a million things. You're the cafeteria lady and the bus driver and the teacher and the principal, and you're everybody at the school. I don't feel as bad about not getting chores done. Yeah, our house is almost always in a state of chaos. You can ask my sister. Yes, we have full-time jobs. You're right. Yes. Okay. So I'm glad that we all have started to accept that anyway, that this is a job. It's a real job. We might not get a salary, but what we do is important. Okay, so let's see. I'm looking at the questions, and I'm also looking at what my summary on my blog. Okay. Mothers owe a thinking love to their children. There was a question about this on my post yesterday, and somebody answered it really well. But I think she pretty much is encouraging moms to educate themselves so that they can provide the best education to their children. And not just education, but moral upbringing and spiritual upbringing and all these different aspects that mold a child into the person they're becoming. And so we can't just willy-nilly go in and out of our days. We kind of need to be intentional about what we do and what we're teaching our children. So what actions have you taken to self-educate? I thought I would share a few books that I've read over the years, and starting with my own spiritual journey and how that just affects my life in general. I actually was like on the verge of agnosticism at one point, and read a few books that totally changed my life, really changed my perspective and brought me back to the faith. And so I thought I'd share those. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis is a really great book. And then The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, and he actually has a whole series of The Case for a Creator. But the Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis has got to be like the Rosetta Stone of apologetics. Like, it's just a really insightful book. The man was a genius. Hi, other people are joining. Anyway, so I want to read all of C.S. Lewis's books one day. Me too. I've read several, but I'd like to read them all too, because he was just a really amazing mind. Okay, so on from my spiritual growth, which I feel like is the foundation of kind of everything you do. All-time faves. Me too. It's like my favorite book ever. I need to read it again. As far as motherhood books, you've probably all heard of Sally Clarkson. This is just one of many of her books that I have, but man, she like totally makes me want to be a mom. Her books are the best books. Her books are amazing, and I always feel I just love her books. They always make me want to be a better mom, and she's encouraging. She's not, she doesn't make me feel bad about what I do or what I don't do the way she does, but she inspires me to be a better mom. And she has lots of books. So Sally Clarkson. And she has a podcast. I listen to her podcast. I'm learning a lot from podcasts this year. Yes. Simply Charlotte Mason, Brave Writer. Yes, I love those. The Circe Institute. Yes. All of those podcasts are really good. And that's, I was going to mention podcasts as well for self-education. It's so convenient to listen to a podcast while I fold 47 loads of laundry, which is what I did today. I folded 500 loads of laundry. And then, okay, this section is taking me a while, but these are really good books. I don't want you to miss them. For homeschooling, Sally Clarkson and her husband also wrote this humongous book, Educating the Wholehearted Child. It's like homeschooling all in one big fat book of all the different approaches you can take, like unit studies and Charlotte Mason, and they give like the classical approach. They talk about different curriculums. So this is a good resource. It's a really big book, but I've looked at it many times over the years to, yeah. So that's a good one. And then the Charlotte Mason Companion is a good one. I don't think I've finished this one, but I got almost all the way through it, and it's a really good book too. And much lighter reading than the home education than we're reading. So this is an easier read, and it has pretty pictures in it. Hi everybody. More people. We have 20 people watching. Woohoo! Okay, and then I'm just talking about self-education in several of the books I've read. Somebody's trying to call me. Sorry. Okay, and then these last two are books about books, which I think a lot of you guys know about. Read for the Heart by Sarah Clarkson, and then Honey for a Child's Heart. And these just give good book recommendations for great books to read to your kids, or to have your kids read. Okay, let's see what people are saying. Love that one. Oh, the Charlotte Mason Companion, yes. Oh no, my screen went blank. No. Hold on. I think my child is on my iPad downstairs and trying to call people. I might have to hold on just 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry. I got Honey for a Child's Heart recently. Read a bit, but not much yet. The introduction is the best part. I mean, the book recommendations are good too, but I love how she talks about how important reading is. Oh, the life of a mother. Yes, I'm sorry that I run out. I had to like bribe them to stay downstairs. I said, nobody come upstairs. Okay, I'm caught up. Okay, what's next? Let me see. Now I'm all out of breath and lost my train of thought. Okay, so a method of education. There's lots of different ideas floating around out there about the best way to raise your kids, and I know as a first-time mom, when I just had the one, it was hard to decide, like, okay, what's best? Do I let him cry? Do I not let him cry? You know, so, but I lost my train of thought again. So Charlotte's plan is to lay out for us this method of education that we can be empowered to educate our children. And a method is a means to an end, is what she says. So easy and spontaneous is a method of education based on natural law, which is what she's trying to teach us in her book. Okay. Oh, you skipped the intro. Well, you need to read the intro. I'm just teasing. So how parents usually proceed. In what ways are your children enlightening you to understand the way their minds work? I feel like they're always telling us the way their minds work, you know, and that's what I like about the Charlotte Mason approach to education, is it's like an extension of their natural bents and the way that they think. And if we just have to be aware of, you know, the type of person they are, because like she says, children are people. And it's not like we're growing them into people. They're already people, and they tell us what kind of people they are all the time. So have you ever started a learning approach that just didn't work? Meaning like a system of education. Because she talks about the difference between a system and a method. And whenever she says system, I think standardized tests, which is what all of our public schools are, you know, that's their goal, is to teach to the test. So, have you ever started an approach that didn't work? I know I have. 4th grade math a couple of years ago. Oh my gosh, it was the worst math ever. And I'm like, I consider myself pretty good at math, but this math book was like the hardest math I've ever seen, and it was 4th grade, and it was like crying every day. And finally we just threw it out and got a different math. We got teaching textbooks. And it was so much better, and suddenly he liked math. So if you have something that just isn't working, you can put it aside. You have permission. You don't have to stick with something. Testing is evil. Yes. It has its place, I guess. I mean, we have to have some kind of measuring, but yes, I agree. I always think that if I were to put my kids in public school, I think I would opt out of the test, because you can do that. At least in the state of Texas, I know you can. Teaching textbooks is the best. Yes, it's taken like such a load off of my shoulders to have teaching textbooks, because I can just look and see what they made, and they're really thorough and they teach it well. I think we had to give up on sex and math. I've never tried to teach that, but I was taught sex and math in public school, and yeah, I've heard that it's hard though to teach it, so okay. Well, the difference, but okay, so now she moves on to, I hope I didn't skip a page. Oh yes, I did skip a page. So whenever you think of a method of education and you're thinking this is like whole child learning, what is your goal as far as, you know, what is your end goal for your whole home education journey? And, or if that's too broad, what kind of people do you hope to send out into the world or to raise? And I know for me, our home education has always been education has always been more about the type of people we're raising versus, making geniuses, because none of my kids are geniuses. But I'm really passionate about the type of people that they become. I'm not so passionate about, you get all your work done every day and we check it off a list, which that has its place. But in our family, it just didn't work. And for me, it didn't work. So I've met moms who, that works for them and that's just fine. But if that doesn't work for you and it's more, of a lighter approach, that's okay too. But even before I knew about the Charlotte Mason method, I was really passionate about, I want my kids to grow up and be compassionate, good, loving, forgiving, thoughtful people. Because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter if they go to college. I mean, yes, it's a good option, but when they come to the end of their life and they didn't go to college, but they had a full life of loving people, what's really more important? Okay, moving on. A system is easier than a method, is what Charlotte says, which is true because you can measure the how far a child has come when you're using a system. But she says it usually falls short of providing the full education that you want to give your kids, and seeing the benefits in all areas of their life, not just this one, we can take a test type thing. And have you ever been tempted to put a system of education in place? Yes, I have. And almost every year I'm so tempted to go look at the STAR test standards online. That's the Texas State Standardized Test. And they have it all online where you can see what all your child should know this year and what all they're going to learn this year. And I mean, it's good for a reference, but at the same time, I don't want that to rule, my every decision and take place of our main goal, which is what I said before, of raising good people. Okay, people are talking, so let me see what everybody has said. Yes, my goal is to raise godly children that love to learn throughout their lives and follow God's will. Yes. And curious people who like to learn, like you said, that's important too. Lifelong learners. Okay. So, in the child's estate, which is part 2 of the pages we read. In what ways do you see the kingdom of heaven in your children? I answered that question with their forgiveness. I think children are the most forgiving creatures on the planet. I mean, they love without question. And I'm always humbled by their acceptance of my apology. If I, do something wrong and I come to them and I say, I shouldn't have done that, I'm really sorry. And they immediately just love me and give me a hug. It's okay, Mama. I mean, if that's not a picture of Jesus, I don't know what is. I mean, that's how I look up to my kids, is through their forgiveness. A system would be easier but far less interesting, right? And kids aren't products, which is what a system is for, right? They're not little machines. That's kind of what I think too. We're not making robots, we're raising people. Okay, so the code of education in the Gospels. I loved this part because I had never thought of it in this way before. But Charlotte Mason says that Christ laid out a kind of foundation of education, or of educating our children in the Gospels, where he says, "Take heed that ye offend not, despise not, hinder not one of these little ones." And she says that they all kind of have a negative connotation. This is what we shouldn't be doing. But whenever we understand the things we shouldn't be doing, all these doors open to, so this is what we do. This is how we do it. And this part blew my mind because I had never considered that before. So we offend them when we do by them that which we ought not to have done. And we despise them when we leave undone those things which for their sakes we ought to have done. Man, she just packs a wallop. She's a very powerful writer, and you could tell that she was passionate about what she did. And then the hindering was kind of like getting in the way of their spiritual growth or neglecting their spiritual growth. So that section was really good, and I can't even express it better than she did. I mean, she put it into the perfect words. Let me get on that section over here in my notes on the computer. Okay, so children are born law-abiding. She explains that we've all seen, how little bitty kids, you tell them no, and immediately they feel bad because they realize they did something wrong. Where does that come from? She says, obviously it comes from a natural inclination to do right. And so, how do we develop natures of selfishness and wrongdoing? So how does that grow if they are naturally inclined to do good and want to do good? And she says by slow degrees, a little here, a little there, just like everything in life. Slowly they're taught, or we're not correcting whenever we need to, which is hard to swallow sometimes, but this section got me to thinking a lot. When we allow a child to get away with little indiscretions, we're teaching him the habit of getting away with that which he shouldn't do. And then he learns to do that over and over again. And she says that they must perceive that their governors are law compelled. In other words, they need to see that parents don't compromise, even in our own decisions, to do the right thing, even if it's harder than the easy thing. And whenever our children see us do that, it's easier for them to follow in our footsteps. And choosing to do what's right becomes something that they easily submit to with the meekness which belongs to his age. Which I see that in my boys, whenever they see me make a decision and they decide, okay, well then that's just what we do because that's what mommy does. They watch her everything, so they're always watching. To give an example of that, they must perceive that, can you give an example of a time where your child easily submitted to a decision you made to choose rightly over easily? Hi, a lot of people are joining right now. What book is this that we're talking about? We're talking about Home Education by Charlotte Mason. Okay, so to give an example of a time when one of my children easily submitted to a decision I made to choose rightly over easily, the first thing that popped into my head was my oldest. A couple of months ago, he's in football this year, and there was a beginning of season party for the whole team. And at the time, we had our old van, which was not very reliable. It kept breaking down on me, or the tires would go low, or it was like the worst vehicle ever. But anyways, we get out on the road, we're on our way, and my engine light comes on. And last year when that happened, I died on the interstate, and it was terrifying. So I'm immediately like, we're not going, we can't go, oh my gosh. And I had the decision, should I risk it and go and break down on the road and all these people that I don't really know have to come save me because my husband's at work? Or should we just stay here? And I was talking about all this to him, my oldest, who's 12 years old, and he finally said, Mama, maybe this is just a sign we shouldn't go. And, he kind of teared up a little. Of course, he was bummed because he so wanted to go to this party, but he, it was the harder decision, but he understood that I was nervous because I didn't want to die on the highway again. So, that to me this is what that made me think of, that he made this decision that was a hard decision for him. What 12-year-old wants to say, don't take me to the party? Of course he wanted to go, and I wanted him to go, but at the time, we just weren't sure if we would make it there safely. So that was what that made me think of whenever she talks about, your child submitting to a decision that's right over, choosing the easy one. So let's see what everybody's saying. Okay, lots of just hellos. Hello. Sweet boy. Yes, he's a good boy. A good oldest brother to have. He's a good example for, not perfect, of course, but he's a pretty good boy. Okay. Moving on. You guys are welcome to chime in whenever. When my kids learn a bad habit, I look at myself first and ask, have I ever modeled that behavior? Did they learn it from me? Oh my gosh, that is so true and so humbling, isn't it? Because they monkey see, monkey do. Everything that we do, and if we, compromise, then they think they can compromise too. Why not? We did it, that's tough. Okay, despising the children. Oh, she talks about mothers giving the very best to their children, not the grouchy hours when we're just, don't feel like doing this, but being our very freshest, best self, our brightest hours. And that can be kind of hard, especially as a homeschool mom, because like somebody said in my comments earlier, we're constantly with our kids all the time. I mean, I don't ever get a babysitter. I probably should, I guess, but I do take some time to read or paint or do, it's always just here a little, there a little. It's never a ton of time that I get to myself, but it's important to take a little breather time so that we can not be grouchy and frustrated, and that's hard, but it's important. Children's faults are serious, even when they're itty-bitty, which kind of goes along with what she said before, that we can't compromise even though they're small and they're cute, and I am guilty of this because whenever, especially like my 6-year-old, he knows that if he just smiles just so sweetly that I'll be like, okay, well, you can have it. I did that earlier. He took a piece of cheese that was my cheese, and I'd already told him that he couldn't have it, and he put on his little sweet face, and Mommy gave in, but I shouldn't have because we're compromising, right? Okay. What good habits can you expand on in your children's lives, and what bad habits can you patch up a bit? The good habits, I think my kids are pretty respectful most of the time, yes ma'am, yes sir, and obedient most of the time. Sometimes they complain. What bad habits can you patch up? A bad habit that we need to work on is the gadgets. Man, gosh, we do too much gadget stuff probably. And I've started unplugging all the gadgets during the weekdays because I'm fine with video games to an extent, but whenever that's like the first thing you do as soon as you wake up, that's a problem, and we need to nip it in the bud. So I've started unplugging that stuff on the weekdays, and they don't get to play it at all during the week. They can use my iPad for like the handwriting app that I have, or what other app do I have? The Prodigy game a little bit, but other than that, they don't. I've stopped letting them. We do school during the week and save the fun stuff for the weekend. And then my own habit of just being on my phone too much because it's addicting. Who's addicted? Me. I need to put my phone down. Okay, hindering the children. Is it easy for you to see that a child is naturally inclined to know his creator? How so? Yes, I think so. I think it's easy to see because they're so curious and they're so amazed by everything, and then they have like this like powerful imagination that I feel like it's like the seed of faith. This is where faith starts in our childhood when we're not so like practical, but we can believe in all sorts of things as a child, and I feel like God made us that way in our childhood so that we could grow that into faith one day and believe. And yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think that their imaginations are the greatest reflection of their inclination to be drawn to God. And then the last question on my questions was, are your children aware that Jesus invites them to come to him? And how can you implement a habit of relationship with Jesus in your day-to-day? we need to work on making this like a daily habit, because we've talked about theological things often, but we're not as good about every single day. I mean, we do like our together Bible reading, but not like my oldest boys could read their Bible by themselves and kind of cultivate that habit in their own lives. So that's something that we're going to add in and work on. Okay. Gadgets here too. Trying to unplug more. Yes. I try to wake up a bit earlier. Yes, I've been trying to do that too. Does that mean I need to go to bed earlier? Well, that's up to you, I guess. I try so hard to go to bed earlier, but my husband gets off at like 10, and then it takes him 30 minutes to get home. So he gets home at like 10:30, and then of course he wants to tell me all about his day. So I can't get in bed early, no matter how hard I try. But I have been trying to wake up earlier, which it'll probably catch up with me, and I'll take like a monster nap one of these days. Okay. We do devotionals with prayer every morning for breakfast. That's good. That's a good habit. Yes, we have a family devotion and discuss the gospel throughout the day, always pointing to Jesus, and that's such a good habit. All these good things. Okay, so let me look at my computer and see if I miss anything. That was it. That was the whole of my blog post and the whole of our 20 pages this week, and it was a good 20 pages. I try to read a children's Bible to my daughters every morning. That's good. That's good. We did that when my boys were itty bitty. We'd do it at night though, and we'd read the little Bible stories every night. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for me before I end this live video? Thank you all for joining me. I thought there'd be like maybe one person log on. I thought it would be my mom, but my sister ended up joining for a little bit anyways. I don't know if she's still watching, but it was a good 20 pages, yes. Well, I'm glad you guys joined me, because whenever I first put it out there, I wasn't sure if anybody would want to read it with me, but apparently a lot of people have tried to read it, like me, and not been able to get very far. It's pretty, what's the word? Heavy reading. It takes a while for the brain to wrap around it. For mine, anyway. I'm still here. Okay, I had some things I wanted to say before I logged off. I'm going to try to put the questions for this next week up tomorrow. And regarding the questions, don't feel like you have to answer the questions. These are like questions that I'm thinking in my head as I'm reading, like, oh my gosh, how does this pertain to me? So I'd like write down a question. You don't have to even download the questions to participate. I don't want anybody to feel like they have to do even more than what we're already doing. We're already doing a million things. And I didn't print this out till today. And that was just because I wanted to like think about, okay, what was it that I had discussed? Because I'm trying to stay a week ahead so that I can get the questions out. So I had to go recap what I had read last week. And so please don't feel overwhelmed by the question pages. That's not what I put them out there for. It was just really my own little outline so that I had something to refer to whenever I did this. And I actually did a little better than I thought I would. I'm sweating. But y'all, I'm such an introvert. This is not comfortable for me, but I'm doing it because you guys asked me to. Next time you can invite a watcher to join. Yes, that was what I wanted to talk about. I've been thinking about that too, because it would be nice to have somebody to go back and forth with instead of like trying to figure out what everybody's saying. But if you're interested in joining me one week, you know, if you look ahead and see, oh, I would like to discuss that, then you're welcome to contact me and let me know. And I'll figure out how to do it on here. I think it's just a little two faces, and I invite somebody and we can talk and discuss the pages that week. And yeah, so if you're interested in that, let me know. And I think that I'm done. Yay! Thank y'all so much for watching. Holding me accountable. You guys are holding me accountable. My husband probably thinks I'm crazy because I'm like in my book all the time, but I'm like, I have people depending on me. I'm an introvert too. Yes, it's a lot. it's easier to comment on Instagram than it is to talk to people. Isn't that sad? But it's true. That's the introvert life. Okay, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go downstairs and figure out what we're going to eat for supper. And I will see you guys later, if I can figure out how to end this. Okay. Alright, bye guys. We'll see ya.